Salam, a very warm welcome to this special edition of Middle East Matters. We come to you from the Iranian capital, which is gripped by election fever. On Friday, the incumbent president Hassan Rouhani, a relative moderate, will be pitted against Ebrahim Raisi, a conservative cleric. If elected, these men have the opportunity to steer the country in very different directions. Now, here in Iran, some 55 million people are eligible to vote, and one of the top issues for them is, of course, the economy. Despite clinching a historic nuclear deal and lifting Iran from back-breaking sanctions, very few benefits have trickled down to the ordinary Iranian. Soon we'll be speaking to a number of Tehran residents here in the bazaar who will tell us what will take them to the polls.
بارز دارم یه فکری به حال جوونا بکنم. یه خود شرایط آسان‌تر کنم، بتونن کار پیدا کنن، بتونن ازدواج کنن، بتونن درآمدی برای خودشون درست کنن.
امنیت جامعه این که من مثلا ساعت 12 شب برم کسی به من کاری نداشته باشه، به خانوما احترام بذارن، به حقوق همدیگه احترام بذارن. ولی متاسفانه اینجا اینطوری نیست. اینکه من راحت باشم، حالا با هر پوششی که دارم میرم بهم احترام گذاشته بشه.
یعنی ما 8 سال خیلی وحشتناکی داشتیم. حالا یه مقدار تغییرات ایجاد شد، امیدواریم که این تغییرات بازم بیشتر بشه.
وقتی که رفتم برای پسرم عکس بگیرم برای پاش، فیلم نبود که عکس بگیرن. به من گفتن CD به تو میدیم چون تحریمیم. فامیلامون دارویی می‌خواستن، نبود داروشونی که استفاده کنن.
It's hard to imagine that 1,636 people registered to stand in Iran's presidential election. That long list of hopefuls was whittled down by the very powerful Guardian Council to only a handful, and now all eyes are on the man at the helm, Hassan Rouhani. Although historical trends suggest that he could be the likely winner, every Iranian president has served a second term. He has had to come out and defend his legacy. And we come to you from one of his election campaign rallies.
It was one of his promises during the 2013 election. Hassan Rouhani vowed to bring Iran out of international isolation. In July 2015, this came to fruition with a historic deal. Iran agreed to reduce its nuclear facilities. In exchange, Western countries agreed to lift sanctions against them, much to the joy of Iranians.
We should use this deal and these new conditions for the sake of growth and development in our country and for the welfare of our people.
Indeed, inflation dropped to single-digit figures and hundreds of thousands of jobs were created. The economy also grew by 6%, thanks to oil exports resuming. But the financial benefits of the nuclear deal remain to be seen. Rouhani's rivals say that poor Iranians have seen few changes and that youth unemployment stands around 27%, while young people make up 60% of the population. Donald Trump's election to the White House has also made European companies jittery about investing in Iran.
There are some US sanctions against Iran that continue to be imposed, and our banking system is still affected by it. European multinationals who invest in the US are fearful of investing in Iran. So only small and medium-sized companies are investing right now, and it's not enough to create jobs.
The moderate Rouhani has been accused of not doing enough to ensure human rights. Executions and tortures have continued at an alarming pace, and political opponents are still under house arrest. Women's rights also haven't improved, despite female sporting teams being able to compete overseas and a record number of women in Iranian parliament. Critics also say that freedom of expression and freedom of public gatherings under Rouhani haven't gotten better. Yet, throughout his campaign, he's played up on electors' fears of conservatives coming back to power. Rouhani will find out if his strategy worked when Iranians head to the voting stations on May the 19th.
Politics and property go hand in hand, and this is one issue that conservative cleric Ebrahim Raisi has pledged to address. Now, the housing sector, which shrank by some 13% over the last year, has become a central theme in Iran's presidential election campaigns. Here's a report from our team on the ground.
Election day is near in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Supporters of incumbent President Hassan Rouhani want the moderate reformist to serve 4 more years. Supporters of his main rival, hardline cleric Ebrahim Raisi, say it's time for change. No matter who they support, Iranians want the next president to improve the economy and help them become homeowners or tenants, something that's increasingly difficult for a young population where an estimated 35% are under the age of 35. Hossein is 32, engaged to be married, visiting real estate agents desperately looking to rent an apartment before his wedding.
I'm getting married in 3 months. Moving to your own place is one of the requirements of a marriage. It's the most difficult.
But in a rental market that requires a large down payment, Hossein's 9,000 euros in savings only affords him a tiny 5th-floor flat in a building without an elevator.
Imagine climbing 5 floors 3 times a day. You'd have to get an athlete for a wife. And an athlete will never marry me. She'd want to marry another athlete.
Hossein and millions of young Iranians simply can't move into their own homes. And it's not because Tehran is short on vacancies. Today, an estimated 2 million apartments in Iran are for sale but sitting empty because of high prices. Tens of thousands in Tehran.
You have a huge rate of vacancies and then a very, very big shortage of affordable housing for young families and people with lower incomes.
The vacancies are due to an economy that struggled for so long and an Iranian currency that's lost so much value, many Iranians poured their money into real estate. But with uncertainty still plaguing the Iranian economy and many Iranians lacking buying power, the market has been at a lengthy standstill. Sellers are not selling because they're waiting for prices to go up. Buyers are not buying because they're waiting for prices to go down. The outcome is a Tehran skyline full of unaffordable empty apartments and millions of young voters who demand the next president help them deliver a better economy where they can afford to move in.
Hassan Rouhani came into power in 2013 with promises of reform, social and cultural changes. But how much can Iran's president alter the country's cultural scene? Well, to discuss this, we're joined by Hormuz Ahmatian, who's the young founder of not 1 but 2 galleries here in the Iranian capital, Dastan. Hormuz, thank you so much for joining us. Now, you actually studied in the US and Canada, but came here to set up these 2 art galleries. How much would you say the art and culture scene has flourished over the past 4 years?
I think we are experiencing a general rise in art and culture and audience engagement because of a general renaissance in the country. But over the past 4 years, one of the good indicators is the activity that you see at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Tehran. There have been many excellent exhibitions taking place, and I think the audience has engaged with it very well.
You launched your first exhibition 5 years ago, which was during the previous administration, and they weren't exactly known for pushing for cultural progress. Can you compare the 2 periods from your own experience?
I think a general rise can be seen, definitely. I mean, both my gallery, without any correlation, and the Tehran auction opened in the previous administration, and there has been a general rise in the number of galleries very steadily. It's not necessarily with one administration or the other, but you do see more engagement from the public in the new administration. And for example, the launch of all the artworks in the exhibitions, in the advertisements was one.
Iran still has a very long way to go when it comes to its art scene and international recognition. What kind of changes would you like to see in the industry?
I'd like to see more infrastructure development, both for the Iranian art and also something in place for better information sharing abroad. So tourism can come in and other people from the international community can enjoy Iranian contemporary and modern art.
And do you think that this topic of social and cultural progress and issues is something that will drive Iran's youth to the ballot boxes on Friday? Because certainly the economy is something that seems to top the agenda for the voters.
I honestly don't think there's going to be a direct link that I can point out, but at the same time, definitely, in my opinion, it will have a change. Art is about engagement, art is about discourse, so I think that would make people want to be more engaged with anything. Also with voting and their own government.
Lastly, Hormoz, we are very much at a political crossroads here. Are you optimistic about the future?
I think I have no choice but to be optimistic in general, but there has been all the right signs. There has been talk of opening doors, lifting barriers, and I think that's going to be for the better. There's going to be added value between Iran and the rest of the world.
Hormoz Hematian, the founder of Dastan Galleries, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you for watching this special edition of Middle East Matters. You can follow our elections coverage from the Iranian capital here on France 24 and our website.
Across Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith.
From North to South Africa, from Bamako to Nairobi, from Accra to Mogadishu. Bringing you all the political, economic, cultural and social news from Africa for a better insight into an ever-changing continent.
Across Africa on France 24 and France24.com.